Yeah,
but she needs to be on a better. She needs to be on a better team.
Now that Caitlin Clark has signed a new deal in Europe, ESPN is pretending as though they have any influence over her choices. They don't. No matter how much they moan, plead, or stamp their feet, Clark has packed her things and isn't turning around. Why? Because Clark has a great deal of common sense and self-respect. Because Clark genuinely values herself in contrast to the WNBA's geniuses in charge. She won't stay and serve as a punching bag for a league that can't even keep its biggest players safe. Why should she remain? She expressed anger with the league's referees in a recently televised comment saying, "I feel like I'm getting hammered and everybody is physical with me. She has struggled with the physical defense she has experienced at the professional level." Additionally, opponents get away with things that others are not able to. Caitlin Clark stated as much. Players have mauled her, referees have disregarded her, and haters who couldn't bear that she was the only one keeping this farce of a league alive have harassed her. "I'm angry because, your meal ticket is always getting attacked." The entire season has included shady plays. She's the WNBA's beat-up cash cow, but now that she's decided she's worth more, people are going crazy. We apologize to ESPN, but all you have left is a large, empty nest of lost potential after your golden goose jumped the co-op. After dropping a bombshell on the WNBA, Caitlin Clark is leaving for Europe, and it's almost funny how ESPN is seeming indifferent to this development. Caitlin is leaving a path of dashed hopes and crushed egos behind her as she heads overseas. She is tired of the circus show that the WNBA has become. She's finally had enough after spending the entire season bearing the weight of the league on her shoulders, taking severe fouls, and getting body checked like she was on a hockey rink rather than a basketball court. And what do you know, I hold her completely innocent. This young player is a rookie on the wrong team and has the necessary skill set to deal with the brutality of that league. You see, this isn't just a player advancing in his career. Do you recall her last encounter with the Connecticut Sun? 10 assists, 7 rebounds, and 29 points. She performed mostly as a one-woman performance. Her teammates, meanwhile, were occupied with being the stars of a comedy of errors, missing easy baskets and pulling off plays that would make a high school coach wince. What action did the WNBA take? They sat back and watched as the referees treated her like a punching bag. Although WNBA fans didn't sign up for a UFC battle, that's precisely what happened every time Clark took the court. Yesterday, Caitlin Clark was abused in her very first WNBA playoff match. And at last, ESPN and its analysts are awakening. Oh, so they finally discovered they had been sitting on a moneymaker all along. How practical. The Indiana Fever were lucky to draw 3,000 spectators to a game before to Caitlin. Not so much like a formal event as a block party in the neighborhood. But once she did, every game saw 17,000 supporters crammed into the arena. That is a 400% rise. The league's highest attendance at home and away belonged to the Indiana Fever, of course led by Caitlin Clark. Average fever was 17,000 degrees. How's influence on that? They didn't merely have the makings of a star. Their phenomenon was unique to their generation. Yes, but let's continue to concentrate on sharing the wealth rather than honoring the one athlete who brought attention to the WNBA on her own. Should Caitlin Clark emerge as the heroic figure, milk it if she's the golden girl? And let's not even discuss them. Sales of goods. In the history of the league, Caitlin Clark's jersey sold more than that of any other player, even icons like Sue Bird and Diana Taurasi. We are discussing a rookie, a player in his first year of competition, defeating Hall of Famers. That is not just remarkable, but also historic. Her games were virtually a national event, and she made the WNBA into a must-watch program on television. However, was she ever treated like the superstar she is by ESPN? Nope. Rather, they provided mediocre coverage, portraying her as merely another participant, and now they're fumbling to make it seem as though they didn't snooze on her. ESPN, it's too late. The boat is already across the Atlantic, you missed it. She should be on a stronger squad, though. All right, let's speak about viewership. The New York Liberty game attracted 1.5 million views. That surpasses several TNT NBA games. And what's left now that she's gone?
Dusty jerseys, empty seats, and a group of ESPN talking heads attempting to find out how they could have ruined the easiest victory in the history of sports broadcasting.
It's hilarious to watch ESPN and everyone else suddenly race to pay attention when Caitlin Clark decides to pack up and move to Europe after experiencing nothing short of a nightmare in the WNBA. At last, the truth is beginning to surface, the same light that will fade here in around 12 hours upon Caitlin Clark's elimination from the postseason. Beyond brutal was the physicality Clark had to deal with in the NFL. Disregard the defense. Every time she tied her shoes, it seemed like she was walking into a street brawl. She was being elbowed, pushed, and hammered. Basically, every nasty tactic known to man. And the league's reaction by acting as though nothing was going on. Consider yourself a rising star. You are treated like a punching bag by the league and the face of a team. It's critical that we make this clear. I mentioned this morning that some players, if you want to call them jealous, have certain traits. This is one of the things I brought up. Okay, so you want to utilize the term jealousy. Let's not even discuss the officiating here. Were any present? Because if you watched any of her games, Clark was being physically assaulted on the court, and it appeared as though the referees were playing see no evil, hear no evil. She expressed her feelings about being pummeled out there. What action did the WNBA take? Dismissed it like if it were any ordinary Tuesday. The well-known eye poke event ought to have served as a warning to everyone. However, the WNBA chose to ignore it as if it were commonplace for a top player to be regarded as an outsider in their own league. However, you will lose money and your league will suffer if you are unable to provide the desired level of entertainment to your audience, supply the product, and generate income. The cost in terms of emotions, it's impossible to put it into language. Every misconnection, every cheap shot, it wears you down. You're sacrificing everything to support a team, but in the process, you're left vulnerable and defenseless. Furthermore, chastised for not being firm enough. Please give me a moment. The league dropped the ball so badly that it's still rolling along with its cheerleading media. They now wish to make up for lost time. Pathetic. And for some reason, this woman decides to swipe at the basketball. She lowered her hand to her fingernails and poked them directly into Caitlin Clark's eye. No foul call was made, no referees interjecting to check on anything. Is this blatantly inappropriate? Not at all. Everyone simply went on. But hold on, it gets even more juicy. Alicia Thomas. And her remarks regarding the fan base's racial bias. Thomas launched charges saying that rather than her amazing talent, Clark's appeal is apparently based in racial dynamics. What action did ESPN take? You guys are the genuine racists. Those guys are just acting like bigots. The people who are finding reasons to despise Caitlin Clark and her growing fan base. Ate it up quickly, absorbing this ridiculous story as though it were brand new. Rather from emphasizing her games that broke records, they interpreted her achievement in terms of race. Really? Their Clark was shattering records, carrying a team on her back, and breaking ankles. And they wished to minimize her accomplishments to a discussion about race? It's been a lot of rubbish, to be honest. I don't think I've ever encountered racist remarks from the India and Fever fan bases in my 11-year career. We saw her face in a grave situation that occurred in this world, and to be honest, it's intolerable. Indeed, it has no place there. Trying to stir the pot even more, they lean into it because it's obvious they can't read a room. Clark's answer? She refused to back down, stating that her success is the product of perseverance and hard work rather than some cheesy racial narrative. However, the fact that she was even forced to take that action demonstrates how biased the media's portrayal has been. 14,000 people follow her. Additionally, the majority of people are unaware of her in the athletics world, and it's really simple to disregard. Caitlin Clark is the only reason anyone is even aware of her identity. Furthermore, she still only has 14,000 Twitter followers. There's not much of A. She is the next big thing, so they could have emphasized that because, spoiler alert, she is. Instead, they embellished a story that only serves to damage her reputation and bring everyone down. It's very reprehensible. What effect does this have on public perception in the interim? It's generating a poisonous environment that Clark isn't entitled to. She's worked hard, but instead of receiving the credit she deserves, she now has to handle these sideshow scandals. The golden goose is her. The league must wake up and understand that Clark is not the only victim of this kind of situation. The entire WNBA is being made to appear amateurish by it. And let's not even talk about the WNBA's inclusive story. They billed themselves as the league of opportunity and equality the entire season. However, they ignored her when it came time to safeguard their most valuable asset. Arid, the WNBA and ESPN are now going to regret ignoring the lone player who turned them into a visually stunning show. They allowed Caitlin to elude them. She was their lifeline, their heartbeat, and their pulse. They are now left to watch as she leaves with all of her belongings and her abilities for Europe. And all of a sudden, everyone is acting as though they have now discovered she is the genuine deal. Too little, too late, I suppose. The WNBA had the opportunity to center an entire team around her and establish her as the league's spokesperson. However, they blew it, and now their best player is gone. I am upset because, your meal ticket is constantly assault. The entire season has included shady plays regarding ESPN. They are attempting to conceal the truth and preserve their dignity, while in reality they erred. They failed to recognize a generational talent, and now they find themselves clutching a big fat nothing. So Caitlin Clark, good luck in Europe. She is moving to a place where people will genuinely appreciate her talent, where she won't be allowed to be destroyed every game while the referees ignore it. And perhaps this will serve as the necessary wake-up call for the WNBA and ESPN. For now, they find themselves at the center of a joke they didn't even know they were telling. Since Caitlin Clark is playing, she is unable to play that game. It's going to be total mayhem over at ESPN with her leaving for Europe. The league, which, let's be honest, needed a miracle to stay relevant, will have to bid a fond farewell to Caitlin's juicy ratings, the surge in gear sales, and all of the hype she generated. They are now left to try to overhype guys who are not even close to matching Clark's single-season accomplishments. There is just too much irony. Just before she is leaving, they at last recognize the treasure they possess. With Caitlin Clark packing her bags and leaving for Europe, ESPN and the WNBA are left with a huge hole that will be difficult to fill. Instead of creating an empire around her, they're reduced to scrounging around for leftovers. Players like Clark are rare, and when you do acquire one, you have to treat them like a king or queen. ESPN is going to pay a price for missing that opportunity. It's not only a setback, it's disastrous. The WNBA blew a huge opportunity to become something special. Caitlin, have fun in Europe. You deserve far better than this fiasco.